We could see a Shield reunion more than ever possible in WWE, and I think that's getting a lot of wrestling fans really excited. And for the amount of wrestling fans that are excited to see a Shield reunion, I think they really need to give us this Shield reunion, because I think we've been asking for this far too long now, and we've both been asking for it and waiting for it far too long. So I think they need to give it to us. If the time was ever now and apparent to give us a Shield reunion, that time is now. And I think that even if you kicked off the year with a Shield reunion sometime in February or March, just before WrestleMania, it would get it in there for WrestleMania, and it would also create some great storylines for WrestleMania 32. Now, obviously, what we're looking at for WrestleMania 32 would be a huge main event between two legends. Possibly The Undertaker and Sting could get in there. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar has been teased over the last number of weeks, with Paul Heyman issuing a challenge on the behalf of Brock Lesnar, which Roman Reigns has yet to accept. We have Sheamus wanting his championship back. There's a lot of possibilities and probable angles that we are looking at for WrestleMania 32. John Cena and Alberto Del Rio, with John Cena's return just a couple of days away. For the first time since last October, when we last saw Cena lose the title to Alberto Del Rio. A lot revolving around the League of Nations again. You know, that's why I think that if the Shield were to reunite, we'd see them go up against the League of Nations, or whatever was left of the Authority, who Triple H had doing his dirty work for him around the time that someone like Seth Rollins reunited with the Shield, being the third wheel and recreating the Shield and bringing it up from the grave that it was put in back in 2013, 2014, when they really changed the complexity of the storylines. And yes, as I said here earlier, you know, never really was a big Seth Rollins fan. What I've been a fan of in professional wrestling and been a fan of for years is someone who will do something utterly stupid and unbelievable when you least expect them to do it. Like CM Punk, for instance, when CM Punk let his voice be heard about everything that was going on behind closed doors in WWE and became the voice of the voiceless and the cult of personality. I thought that was really awesome, and that was a really great way of catapulting CM Punk into becoming WWE champion and the representative that we all wanted for the ice cream bars, the action figures. He wanted WWE just to be fun again, and he did what he had to do to let people know that he wanted WWE to be fun again. How WWE treated him on the last of it, I don't really agree or concur with that, because he was just being someone who wanted everybody to know how he really felt, and obviously WWE didn't take that into consideration. He wanted to be in the main events against Brock Lesnar and The Rock's, but he never did get that opportunity. One match with The Rock really was not cutting the proverbial mustard for me as a CM Punk fan, and the majority of CM Punk fans who were termed pissed off CM Punk fans with how it all played out. After 434 days to lose the championship to The Rock, is that really the best way to treat one of your best athletes that you have on the roster, or had on the roster at that point in time? I think that stupidity in WWE, reiterating what I just said here, is the best way to go about getting things done, because it makes you stand out. You know, people criticize someone like Bo Dallas all the time, but the thing is, you know, him believing in himself and making wrestling fans into believers themselves and offering advice to people like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, that's getting him over, because it's providing us not only with a comical reprieve, but letting us know that Bo Dallas could be someone eventually 6 months from now who could be Intercontinental Champion, who could be feuding with the likes of Dean Ambrose if ever given the chance. It's just that Bo Dallas doesn't have enough confidence coming from WWE creative and board members to be put over to match with Dean Ambrose for that Intercontinental title. The confidence entirely lies with people like Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, and Dean Ambrose in a three-way scenario, which is going to be really interesting over the next couple of months, with no disrespect thrown their way. But throw Bo Dallas into the mix, make it a fatal four-way, and once again change the complexity of WWE. Again, you know, taking a look at the Divas Revolution, at least Becky Lynch versus Charlotte, with either one of them being heel, again plays off the history of Team PCB, which is a minimal amount of history, but again, it's different. And it's something that wrestling fans want to see, because half the fans are torn. You know, half the fans want to see Becky Lynch get the benefit of the doubt over Charlotte. Half the fans want to see Charlotte win, because they are diehard fans of the Flair family, who have never really had a lot done with their careers outside the legacy of their father, because their father was the most infamous performer out of any of them, especially with him tearing up the territories back in the 80s. And I think that that's really what the Flair family has prided themselves off of. It definitely wasn't the career of nor David nor Charlotte. They're just thriving off their father's success. So I really think that, you know, there's a lot of possibilities that could be created in WWE, but what it comes down to is how much wrestling is listening to its fans, because if we're up to fans, we'd be seeing the reunion of the Shield, we'd be seeing more stupid things happening, and we'd be seeing more people being given the benefit of the doubt. Do I see Seth Rollins becoming champion off his return sometime in the summer of 2016? I do, and I kind of don't, because he's going to want to put that final nail in the coffin, probably in that match with Triple H. It would be interesting if, say, Triple H beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 32, and then off of the victory of Triple H over Roman, here comes Seth Rollins. He challenges Triple H for the championship, and he's the one who takes the strap off of Triple H. Another scenario would be interesting would be to see Sting return the night after WrestleMania off of Triple H's victory, challenge Triple H for the championship, become champion, and then we have Seth Rollins versus Sting for the championship. There are a lot of ways it could go. Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton or John Cena for the championship. But I think there's a lot of stuff left to finish up in storylines that were left unfinished off the injury of Seth Rollins. I think WWE had a great deal planned for Seth Rollins in 2016, especially after matches with the likes of Brock Lesnar and Sting. They couldn't get it done or off the ground because of that major injury, which was really unexpected to happen over in Europe when he blew out his knee off that running power bomb, which I really think they need to consider taking out of Seth Rollins' move arsenal because it really hurts Seth Rollins along with his opponents. I mean, if not for that power bomb, we wouldn't have seen the injury to Sting, his neck injury, and we wouldn't have seen Seth Rollins blow out his knee because of how much he had to run, carrying a substantial amount of weight. I mean, when you're carrying people like Roman Reigns and you're carrying people like Sting, over 250 plus pounds on your shoulders across the length of the ring, I mean, that really pulls a toll on you, and that plays a toll on your entire body. It really pushes you beyond your physical limits. So we can kind of put the blame on that running power bomb as to what's happened to people like Sting and Seth Rollins over the last number of months, and I think they really need to consider, taking a step back and taking that move entirely out of the move arsenal of someone like Seth Rollins, because it's really ridiculous the amount of injuries we've seen and just how many injuries have been the responsibility and deemed for Seth Rollins when you see people like Randy Orton and Sting and John Cena, always on the DL from these moves that people like Seth Rollins are pulling off. They're moves that are impressive, but they're moves that aren't really needed, especially when you see these many wrestlers popping up on that DL. So I think there's a lot that really needs to be reevaluated and reconsidered when you're bringing someone like Seth Rollins back, who really fits the mold of an arrogant Shawn Michaels or an arrogant Rob Van Dam from back in the day. I think he really represents one of the Rockers more so, than anybody, because Shawn Michaels, when he first showed up in WWE, was an arrogant son of a bitch. And I think Seth Rollins kind of really fits the mold of an arrogant Shawn Michaels and what Shawn Michaels once was, and that really was illustrated in that promo between Michaels and Rollins, when Rollins said that he was better than Shawn Michaels ever was, and then Shawn Michaels walked out on Seth Rollins by having his music played because he believed that he was always the best and always will be the best. Seth Rollins was just a Shawn Michaels wannabe, and I think that really put into perspective how much Seth Rollins really fits the mold of a Shawn Michaels or Triple H character, and I think that Triple H realizes that, and that's why, as the COO of the WWE, he's made that impressive decision to put Seth Rollins over all the time, and I think that in a match between Triple H and Seth Rollins before we see the reunion of the Shield, I think that's where Seth Rollins is really going to be put over, because that victory over Triple H will do wonders for his career. Just look at what it did for someone like Daniel Bryan, because Daniel Bryan was trained by Shawn Michaels. Both Michaels and Triple H knew that Daniel Bryan was going to be the man in WWE, and look what that victory at WrestleMania 30 just last year did for someone like a Daniel Bryan. I mean, it really elevated Daniel Bryan, made him go on to become champion and one of the most successful champions and leaders of WWE we had seen in years, and I think that the same thing could be done for Seth Rollins if a victory over Triple H was to come his way. Again, only time will tell where we go from there. Based on what happens with Seth Rollins and either Triple H or Sting when Seth Rollins returns to finish up and put the final nails in the coffins of unfinished business, that's when we're going to see a reunion of the Shield. Now, we have seen the Shield hold a number of championships in WWE with the exception of the World Championship. It would be awesome seeing them hold titles like they once did, either tag team titles, intercontinental championships, or even the WWE Championship. I mean, we've seen all the notorious factions over the years hold championships, everybody from D-Generation X to the Nation. So I think we could see a notorious faction like the Shield hold every championship. There is a possibility of having seen that, and there is a possibility more so to boost the ratings and the morale of WWE and to get people talking, which is the most important thing to see throughout social media, because the conversation of the Shield reunion is at an all-time high. But will it be at much of an all-time high when it finally happens, or will it be just looked at as something that WWE fans will brush away from and want to see something more, like more of the Brothers of Destruction or more of, say, Triple H being champion? Is the Shield reunion really what people are talking about 6 months from now? They're talking about it now because it hasn't happened. But once the novelty of the Shield reunion wears off, is this really what wrestling fans will be talking about, 3 or 4 months after it finally happens? If WWE does go the way of giving us the Shield reunion, I see big things happening, especially with how Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are finally champions in WWE, and I've seen the conversation on social media. I've heard people talking about Dean Ambrose as IC champion and Roman Reigns as world champion. People are proud of people like Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose for finally getting to this point in their careers, reaching up and grabbing those proverbial brass rings from the likes of Kevin Owens and Sheamus. Really proud of that. But when you look at the circumstances that had to unfold for someone like Roman Reigns to be on top, all these wrestlers on the DL, Sting, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, your big players in WWE had to end up on the DL before Roman Reigns was ever given the chance to be champion. Just look at the scenario we had for the Survivor Series prior to the injury of Seth Rollins in Europe. We had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Was Roman Reigns supposed to have defeated Seth Rollins to become champion? Was it supposed to have gone that way? Or was the reign of Seth Rollins supposed to have been prolonged, setting up for bigger issues and storylines for WrestleMania 32 to have unfolded? Was Reigns given the championship and the benefit of the doubt finally because WWE realized they had nothing to fall back on like they have done in recent years? The difference was back in the day in, say, 98, 99, when it would happen, when Stone Cold Steve Austin would have a major injury or walk out on the company, or they'd fire Brock Lesnar, you had enough wrestlers on the roster to kind of kayfabe it, cover up the real reason, what was actually going on behind the closed doors, and you could move on with your storylines. Nobody really noticed the absence of Stone Cold or Brock Lesnar. Some people did, but not enough. And now more people are noticing the absence of all these big-name wrestlers, either it be John Cena, Seth Rollins, Sting, Randy Orton, with no definite return date set for them. The only one we know of is John Cena and his feud with Alberto Del Rio, coming back to confront the U.S. champion and possibly winning his U.S. championship back. Another scenario I'm looking at for WrestleMania, if John Cena is unsuccessful in winning the title, would be Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the first time at a WrestleMania, and Cena going on to win his 16th championship, which could be the way that it plays out.